Welcome to Access Open Minds.
I would suggest people do it, learn from how it happens. It's not going to be, we don't have the final answers of how to do it. Yeah. Do it. To do something that hasn't been done before, but that is clearly essential if we want to improve outcomes. And that is listen to the people who are going to be receiving services. I'm not saying it's necessarily going to work in every other type of service, but I think in a transformed service for youth, where we are not only changing the way the service is being delivered, we're also covering a generation gap. And I think for that reason, it's really important.
Overall, if people are committing to youth engagement, youth voice, family engagement, family voice, and to multi-stakeholder participation, then they also need to think in their own teams and settings about what would be a range of mechanisms through which these values will be expressed. If not, there will be a lot of distance between dialogue and action. And I think that this is something we're also beginning, we're only at the beginning of this journey. So to some extent we have a lot to share, but we also have a lot more to learn, and I'm happy and grateful for that. But one thing that for me was good was knowing that the responsibility of the decision making is not only on me. So it's nice to know that there are many people participating in this decision.
Je pense que c'est très important de cheminer avec les jeunes, de ne pas d'enlever nos... Nous aussi, on peut avoir des préjugés, des prérequis, des représentations mentales qu'on s'est faites des jeunes. Et le projet nous invite à dire non, mets ça de côté là. Je vais découvrir qui est Julie. I'm going to discover who she is. Hein? C'est ça qui est important. D'aller à la découverte de quelqu'un d'autre.
Throughout this whole process, I learned how to judge someone, but not in a bad way, but in a critical way, and to make inferences about them given very little information, and to kind of look for very small things that we wouldn't ordinarily look for. And I also realized that each stakeholder will always have their own concerns in mind with regards to the candidate and what they're looking for. But however, not all needs will always be able to be met, and that's why it's really important to have youth there. Because while all these other people are looking out, and this might sound bad, but they're looking out for their own interests, for their own groups that they represent. So it's really important to have that youth representation so that there's always someone to stand up for what we think is important.
It was an eye-opening experience to learn about the point of view of other employees in a clinical setting, bosses and other clinicians who will have to work with the clinician being hired. I think that it's important for everyone to know other people's points of views. So I didn't have really any experience with that, and it was very useful to know how other members of the service providers, what their point of view is, and what challenges they face when they're providing services.
For every professional that you hire, a youth or family member should be on the committee. And unless you do integrate that, sadly, into the policy, it won't be sustainable. So I think that's definitely a key point, that policy has to change, the procedures have to change in the organization itself for it to be long-lasting. Yeah.
I think there's a number of steps. One, there has to be buy-in from senior leadership. So this has to come from a senior leadership perspective. It can start low, but you need that buy-in because those people do ultimately make hiring decisions. On a very pragmatic level, one of the things that I wish we had done a little bit more of is in the preparation phase. It does take more time to go through this. It is involving people who may have never either been in or sat in on an interview panel before. There does still have to be some traditional structure to an interview process. So on our end, I think we achieved that, but if I were to do it again, I would probably take more time with our small hiring panel beforehand to really consolidate questions, to really come down to a practical application of questions and things like that that are important to the stakeholders, but while balancing the comfort level of a candidate, because you can't be too far off left field or people can't perform and you might be missing an excellent candidate just because it was so unorthodox for them. So while involving youth and family or stakeholders in an interview process that's already not a traditional way of doing things, still maintaining some traditional structure to an interview, which I think we did and we achieved, but it took some tweaking as we went along. It is essential, I think, if the goal is to find the best candidate, because interviewing is already tough for people, and if you throw them off too much, then you just might end up with a lot of confusion. And people do prepare for interviews in a traditional way, and you want someone that can think on their feet and change, but you might even miss their ability to do that because the process was too potentially all over the place. I think we achieved, a good balance, but I would have taken more time to prepare with.
And it didn't happen, but I would have loved to participate in the job description in creating that. And I also would have loved to suggest the hiring of other team members, such as client peer support workers and family peer support workers, which I passionately believe should be part of the clinical team.
I think this was one of the sort of key activities that we went through in the last year that connected us as a network. It was a very concrete activity that everybody in this network had to do. Locally they had to hire, here at Central Office we had to hire, and I think it's been a particularly interesting and enriching opportunity to strengthen those bonds as well as learn from each other.
It was a great experience learning how to communicate with different people from different backgrounds and different parts of the team, and learning to come together and really just kind of talk about this stuff. Even from a perspective, again, as a youth, I'm going to be, this is a short-term project, it's only going to be 5 years. I'm going to be needing more jobs, right? So it was a good experience, I guess, to learn how to answer questions of what people are really looking for, and I guess that's really what I learned from it.
Pour les équipes, et évidemment c'est un projet important et prioritaire pour notre CIUS, et on souhaite continuer à participer activement et à continuer à innover et à développer la créativité des équipes dans tout le développement qu'on peut avoir par rapport à nos façons de faire. Et de rien, de pouvoir envisager toute possibilité qui peut favoriser l'amélioration des services pour la clientèle.
Well, I think we all come at things from our own perspective. Our personal backgrounds as well as our professional backgrounds made natural sense. And we did really want the research assistant and the clinician to be youth-friendly. Something that the youth would, any youth that would come and walk through our doors would feel comfortable right from the beginning. And I think that's one of the important things, is that with the 5 stakeholders, when we finally selected candidates, the candidates resonated with all the stakeholder participants on the interview panel. And that's something that you really want to achieve. You want family and carers, the representative for family and carers, to be embracing this candidate. You want the youth to be embracing this candidate. You want the site lead, or you want the administrator to embrace the site lead. Then the selection of your candidate. If all 5 parties agree and rate this individual highly, then you've got the person for the job.
Donc c'est à tout point de vue une expérience positive pour nous, puis on va continuer à explorer à travers le projet, parce que c'est un projet de recherche-action. Puis en même temps qu'on fait de la recherche, nous amène à repenser nos façons de faire et à changer au fur et à mesure du projet, et au fur et à mesure des idées qui sont amenées dans le projet par les différents groupes, autant les jeunes que les familles, évidemment les intervenants qui grandissent aussi à travers ce projet, et les gestionnaires qui pilotent le projet avec les responsables de la recherche. Alors voilà.
And we just need to keep making it better. And it also means we need to listen to people who don't feel comfortable with it. What is it, the discomfort? What are their challenges? How can we help? We're scaling it up, and site X or province X says, no, this is not going to happen because we are afraid of X, Y, and Z. Well, let's sit down and talk about what those fears are.
Maybe they'll learn something from me, from youth perspective. That would be cool, but again, I don't really know. I just enjoyed sharing my perspective and listening to theirs and just communicating and figuring out the best candidate for our community possible. So you're gonna get the best of the best. That's it.
Drop off it.
Contact us at Access Open Minds if you'd like to explore how to include youth, family, and carers on the HR panels of your organization.